Okay.
Thank you, Louise. Hello, Chris and Janice. Welcome to OTF Connects. Thank you for giving of your time this beautiful evening to join us tonight. I'm Sirius Kurhan, facilitator and coordinator of the OTF Professional Development Project. It's my pleasure to welcome Sheila Rhodes, who will be facilitating tonight's webinar on connecting with the natural world. I'll give you a little bit of background about this resource and this workshop. In 2012, OTF, with funding from the Ministry of Education, partnered with STAO, the Science Teachers Association of Ontario, to develop this resource to support teachers in infusing environmental education across the curriculum, and specifically to support the new social studies curriculum. You will be able to access this resource from the OTF website and the STAO website. Louise will, in time, put the links on the, oh, there it is, the link to these resources that Sheila will be talking about can be accessed through the OTF website, and there it is. Sheila was the amazing project leader for the resource writing project, and she's also presented it a couple of times at the STAO annual conference. So welcome, Sheila.
Thank you. So it's okay, excellent. Thank you. So welcome, Chris and Janice. So what I'm going to do tonight is basically review of this curriculum resource that Syria mentioned was developed about a year and a half ago, and just sort of to get an idea so that I can maybe structure the session a little bit better. I'm just sort of curious as to what grades the two of you teach, or what position you hold in this school.
I'll jump on for a second here. Chris, looks like you might have a little sound lag as well. You can use the polling tool, which you will find underneath your name in the participants box, the very right-hand icon. It looks a little letter A right now. And you can let us know in the chat as well if you want to go into more detail, especially if you are other.
Okay, so I see Janice, you teach secondary level and developmental delayed, and Chris, what about you? Oh, all right, okay.
I'm an occasional teacher in Ontario because it's harder to get a job here, but I'm originally from Saskatchewan, where I worked for almost 3 years, teaching a class full of students with a variety of sectionalities.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so actually that's interesting because my background also is special education. So all of us have that as something in common. But I just wanted to sort of get a sense because this unit is developed for grades 4 to 6, and I was, if somebody had a particular interest, then I could spend more time on that. So what I'm going to do is this is just a screenshot of the STAO website. So the resources, as Louise has already put in the chat area, so the resources are available on the OTF website, also available on the STAO website as well. So all of these documents are available for you to download and use as you want. So that's a really nice resource for you because you can then modify them, use them however you want. So again, Siri's already mentioned this, that it was a partnership. I helped with the Science Teachers Association of Ontario. I've been working with them for many years. The last couple of years, my role has been as the partnership coordinator. And this is the first time that we did a project with a joint project with the Ontario Teachers Federation, which was really exciting. So these were just the members of our writing team to give them credit. So again, classroom teachers. So if those of you, if you're in Ontario, and OTF often will have curriculum writing projects, that might be something that you're interested in doing yourself in the summertime. So those are the kinds of things that you might want to watch out for. So why this resource? A little bit of, I'm just going to give you a couple of slides of things that you can read on your own. and then I will come back to resource. This is one of my favorite slides when I teach in our Faculty of Education. When I'm teaching our science, normally the date doesn't come up when I do the slideshow. So I asked them when they think that would have come, and that was quite a long time. I think we're still struggling in Ontario to get some of that sense of wonder into our classroom with our students. So 1941, that was. So connecting with the natural world is the curriculum resource that we're going to about. So Surya also mentioned the main reason why we did this resource was the social studies curriculum was being revised years ago, and a big part of what they were going to be doing was an integration and much more of an inclusion with the environmental focus as well. So what we were trying to do in our document was show teachers how they could take both the science curriculum and the revised social studies and do an integrated program where they would be able to cover two sets of expectations in an integrated fashion. So one of the things that I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about is something called nature deficit disorder. And I'm just curious if you like a check mark or actually comment on this, whether or not this is a term that either one of you are familiar with. Okay, so nature deficit disorder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a video in a moment. We're just going to have the video come up and we'll explain how we'll ask you to look at it. But it really is that I feel strongly about, that our children are not connecting with the natural world. And most of us, when we were children, played outside, you know, like on an evening like tonight, we wouldn't have come inside until somebody told us to come in because the lights went on. Our children are not doing that anymore. They're staying inside. They don't understand the importance of connecting. So Richard Luke, who has coined this phrase, is going to show. We're going to show you a short video where he will explain the importance of connecting with nature again.
Okay, I was going to drop that link in the chat, but as soon as I switched over to web tour mode, Sheila, your voice started to cut in and out, and Janice got her lagging symbol back. So what I'm going to do then is I've got it right there in the chat, and so I'm going to invite all of you to just click directly on the link in the chat rather than do the web tour, just because I don't want it to cause problems that might not resolve themselves when we're finished with the video. So go ahead and click on the link in the video. And when you're done, come back into this space and give us a green check mark using your polling tool underneath your name in the participants box. And Sheila, you might want to turn your mic off for that few minutes so that that you've got a little break.
Feel about the nature deficit disorder after having watched the video. So Chris, you want to turn your microphone on?
I didn't hear your question. I'm sorry, it cut out.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just wondering what you believed, how you felt about the nature deficit disorder.
Whether I believe that it exists?
Yes.
I believe that it exists because when I'm teaching children today, I feel that they have a disconnect with nature, and I find that their creativity isn't the same as when I was a child, and when my sister and I were in school, we were just a lot more creative and we had more of an imagination. Like, I just remember we were able to play a lot longer and we kind of knew how to play, and I find that the kids I'm teaching now, I almost have to teach them how to play, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. I also teach in our Faculty of Education, and I teach our health and phys ed program, and that's a big thing that I talk about with new teachers coming into the system, is that I actually have them go over recess games, because our children don't even play recess games anymore. So I think I strongly believe in this whole approach, and so that was the reason I showed that video, was to give a bit of background with respect to our document, because one of the things that we wanted to do was to try and show teachers some of the reasons for the importance of getting children back outside, and also to sort of address some of the issues that were raised in the video with respect to the reasons why we're not taking our children outside. So our curriculum document, I'm going to give you just a quick overview and then sort of make reference to some of the resources that we used while we were creating the document. So what we decided to do was we took the 3 grades and looked at the different topics within the science curriculum to see where the best fit would be, where it would be sort of the easiest fit for teachers to see where they could put their curriculum without making it a huge stretch of the imagination. So we picked 2 in the grade 4, 1 in the grade 5, and 1 in the grade 6. And I'm going to sort of briefly go through each one of those. Because again, you can read all of these resources on your own, but I wanted to just give you an overview so you would get a sense. So what we looked at is, and that was why Louise had asked you to take, if you had a chance to download the overview section, because I am going to spend a bit of time referring to that as well. So throughout the document, one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was helping teachers realize how easy it is to get their children outside, but also how important it is to get outside as well. So part of what we were looking at as well is the big focus that the government has now, as to many other organizations, just on critical thinking. So again, we have sort of infused critical thinking into a lot of the activities that we have for the teachers and the students. So this is sort of an overview of what all of the lessons look like. So again, a bit of background information for the teachers, but also in each one of the lesson activities, there is a direct link to environmental education, but also curriculum expectations. So a clear link to the curriculum expectations, which obviously a teacher will need in order to be able to feel confident and comfortable doing these. Big ideas and learning goals we put into all of the activities. And then in each one of the activities, we made sure that there were suitable activities for differentiated instruction, and also different strategies for doing assessment techniques as well. And each one had some additional resources that would help you teach that particular topic. So going back to the sort of the genesis of some of environmental education in Ontario, Chris, you had mentioned that you had come from out west. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with all of our Ontario documents, but these are the documents that I'm going to make a very brief reference to: Shaping Our Schools. There's one, Acting Today, Shaping Tomorrow, and then a third one called a Scope and Sequence Chart. I'm going to then look a little bit about learning outside, and then a little bit about inquiry. So background information about environmental education in Ontario. So back in 2006, the government commissioned a report that became known as Shaping Our Schools, Shaping Our Future. It was also known colloquially as the Bondar Report, because Roberta Bondar was the chief architect of this resource. So this document really looked at how environmental education was being done in Ontario schools at the time. And unfortunately, she came back and said it wasn't really being done very well in Ontario. So this report came out with 32 recommendations that the government should be doing with respect to infusing environmental education into all of our curriculum documents. The result of that report was a document that was called the Acting Today, Shaping Tomorrow, which actually is a policy document. So when it is a policy document, these are things that people are actually supposed to be doing in their curriculum. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of the recommendations that came out of that report. And as you see, a big part of it is looking at a cross-curricular focus. As an elementary teacher, I think we are all sort of are comfortable with the fact that an integrated approach is the best way for children to learn, and it's in actual fact the only way you're ever going to get all of your expectations covered. So again, we're looking at how elementary students can do particular topics, and also be looking at how they can do activities that are going to help them see that they have a role to play in changing and shaping our environment. But it also addressed the fact that teachers need to have those skills as well so that they can understand the importance of doing that. So it's interesting to see that it has to be introduced as a part of teacher training. And being a person who works at the Faculty of Education, it would be nice to say that I see that a lot, but I think we still have a long way to go in our faculties of education so that they will make environmental education a bigger focus for the new teachers. So those were some of the key recommendations. This is sort of the ministry's jargon for what knowledge, skills, and attitudes that we're hoping that our students will be able to come away with if they have environmental education infused into all of their curricula. So again, all of these skills and attitudes are hopefully going to be infused into all of the different curriculum documents. So this policy document that came out basically said to all of the new curriculum resources that were being introduced, all of them had to have an element of the environmental education embedded into the document. So whenever you look at the front matter of any of the curriculum documents now, there's always a section on environmental education. The science curriculum, which came out in 2007, actually did take a fair bit of this environmental education and embed it into the current science curriculum. Another useful document that I find teachers are probably not familiar with is this environmental education scope and sequence of expectations. Now, it has not been updated since 2011, unfortunately. But if you go and all of these documents are downloadable from the ministry website, and we'll give you that link. But what it does is it takes every grade and every subject, and it says, okay, if you're in teaching grade 4 and you were doing an art activity, here are some of the expectations that would address environmental education. So they've already gone in and shown you where the actual curriculum expectations would fit. So as a teacher, you don't need to reinvent that. But again, this is another resource that many teachers are not familiar with. These are two other curriculum documents that just sort of give you some ideas of how environmental education activities can be really simple and really easy to do in your classroom. And again, these are resources that are available from the government. So that is the link where you can go and get those documents and download them as a PDF file. And then that, again, you've got all of those as your own resource. So before we move on to actually look at the curriculum document, I just want to get a sense from those of you involved here. Why do you think that teachers are not using the natural environment for teaching? So I just put down 4 ideas that I came up with, and I'm just curious what you feel the reason why teachers don't use the natural environment to get their kids engaged in learning. So any comments on that one?
I think it probably is because a lack of time. So it takes time to leave the classroom and go outside, and maybe there is really no place to go, and maybe a lack of knowledge.
Okay. Yes, I actually believe that all of those things are probably reasons why teachers go outside or don't take the children outside. So my first teaching job was in downtown Toronto, and what I try and say to teachers is that in many places, schools actually have a park close by. So, you know, when they say, well, we don't, you know, we have asphalt in our schoolyard, well, in actual fact, that can actually be a learning environment as well for what you're doing. So again, it's sort of trying to show teachers that there are many places where you can take them, but I agree, time is always a constraint as well. Yes, I have seen crowds of inner city schools. So for those of you who know Toronto at all, I taught at Dufferin and Eglinton, and many schools actually have a park close by. That's just sort of the way they were done. So I always sort of suggest to teachers that, particularly the elementary schools, they have signed that permission form typically where you can take your children on a walk as long as it's within the walking distance of the school. So just even taking them outside. So again, just a couple of key points about why it's important to get the children connected to nature. And again, just sort of the whole idea of using their senses, that I think a lot of children have maybe sort of lost that perspective as well. And again, just giving them an opportunity to observe and to ask questions. Another big focus that we haven't done enough of in our schools is helping children understand an Aboriginal perspective. And that Aboriginal perspective is, again, something that is supposed to be infused into our curriculum documents as well. So to give children that opportunity to understand the Indigenous perspective of nature. So, and again, if we're looking at learning styles, many more children learn very well outside just if they're naturalistic learners. And again, we're looking at a lot of inquiry-based activities as well. Chris, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Sheila, when you mentioned First Nation or Aboriginal perspectives, do you know of a document offhand that you really like to bring those First Nation perspectives into the curriculum?
Oh my goodness, I'm working on that right now in a project that I'm working on through STAO also, but I could probably give you that afterwards because I've got a long list of resources, but there is one from the ministry. It is a few years old now. It's called the Teacher's Toolkit. It doesn't
Wonderful.
It has some resources for how to, and again, it's looking at expectations, and it has language and social studies expectations. Now again, it is dated because it's the previous social studies document, but that's one start that you can get right away. Again, it's on the ministry website. Louise has already got it up for you there. Yeah, so the other, again, really, yes, it is a good start. Yeah, so again, looking at really simple ways that you can get your children outside. I'm a firm believer in just taking your children outside just for the sake of taking the kids outside, and it is really easy to do. And again, just sort of some simple activities that you can do with children, to get them connected with nature. Last year, I was out visiting some student teachers on a day just like today, and the high school teacher wanted to take his class outside to do an activity, and my student teacher was quite upset when I went to see her because apparently none of the kids wanted to go outside. And I just sort of went, oh, that's really sad that, high school kids on the first nice day that we'd had in the spring did not want to go outside. So I think we have a huge task ahead of us. I'm not sure that we're going to watch this whole video. I think I'm going to have you just maybe watch the first few minutes of this, and then at your own leisure you could probably watch the whole thing. This is a video from England, and it is for the younger children, but it gives you the sense of just the whole focus on the importance of taking children outside and what could be done with that. So again, Louise, the easiest thing to do is to put this link into the chat area again.
Yep, that's what I've just done. So go ahead and click on that. And Sheila, it looks like you want them to watch maybe up to 10 minutes or come back when they're ready.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the time. Yeah, maybe in the 10-minute mark, if that's okay.
Okay.
And then again, put your hand. Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, so any comments about the video?
I was so caught up in watching it. It was very interesting to me, especially with the new kindergarten curriculum that I've been reading on play-based learning. In the FO binder, there's a bunch of guides on play-based learning, and it really reminds me of that.
You know, like even though with younger students, I still thought it was worth showing just to give the sense of what it's all about with getting children outside. And the other question that I often will ask teachers is, do you think we could have a school like that here in Ontario? And unfortunately, a lot of my student teachers will say no because they're too concerned with the risk of children getting hurt. And I think if you just looked at the looks on the faces, particularly at the very beginning of the video when that little girl got picked and she got like, yes, my turn to go to the school. Now that's where you're going to get real learning taking place.
I just don't know about having the kids climb the tree. I think that would scare me.
I think we have to moderate our ability to take risks as well. So anyway, there's a bit more of that video if you want to watch it, but again, I just thought it was worth sort of giving an overview as well. So I'm just going to, this is another site that you might want to explore on your own as well. The Natural Curiosity, it came out of OISE and Institute of Child Studies here in Toronto. So that's a wonderful resource that we have in the development of our curriculum guide as well. They've got a great, you can go and Chris, your comment about the kindergarten program, they've got a couple of little videos as well about kindergarten programs. One of my student teachers last year did her placement in a kindergarten school in Toronto where our education program, so the children spend the majority of their day outside. So again, this is just another link that you might want to make reference to later on. And this is the definition this organization came up with respect to environmental inquiry. And I think for me, the key word is citizens with a love of learning. And I think that's one of the things that we really want to find and instill in our students as well. So with the curriculum resource, that's sort of some of the background as to how we got to where we were. So as our writing team was going through all of these different activities and different resources, what we did is we did a fairly extensive overview section, which was that one document that Louise sent you. So what we try to do is say to teachers, you know, like you can start really small. You don't have to do a big, huge project in order to think about getting your children connected with nature. Just, you know, think about taking them for an outside. Think about taking them just for a little tour around the local neighborhood, and then get them sort of comfortable in getting them to observe and to record and to collect data. So these were some of the topics that we were well aware of that teachers would need to be thinking about taking their children outside and making that connection to the outside world. So again, you know, what kind of preparation would you need to do? What kinds of class management, for example? Looking at the difference between rural and urban communities. Oftentimes we assume that if children are in an urban community, it might be more challenging for them to connect to nature, whereas in actual fact, some of the rural schools might have issues as well. So another thing we looked at was the whole idea of getting children outside all year long, not just when it's nice weather as well. So again, those are just sort of some topics that we have addressed in the open session. The other thing that we also did in each one of the units is we use storylines or scenarios so that teachers would have an ability to sort of make the activities more engaging for the students. And so I'm going to go through a few of them with you. And again, each one of them has a sample scenario that you could use. And obviously you can make ones up on your own, but I'm just going to give you a couple of examples that we came up with. So the first unit I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking is the grade 4 Understanding Life Systems unit, and that's obviously a nice connection for getting your children outside habitats and communities. So these 4 activities that were created for this particular unit, and each one of the lessons often has maybe 3 or 4 sub-lessons within it. So this could be your whole unit on habitats, or it could be a portion of your unit, depending on which way you wanted to do it. You might only want to do 1 or 2 of the activities, ones that we suggested, but again, it would give you an example of how you could do the different topics as well. So in this particular case, the scenario that we gave the teachers was like a top secret mission, and this is grade 4, so children can really buy into this whole idea of it being sort of a secret mission. We came up with the Global Habitat Detective Agency, and it allows you to sort of use some really cool technology as well by text messages and email messages back and forth, and you bring your principal and get them to sort of be involved in this as well, so that, you know, on the slide they're necessarily involved in this, but again, make it a secret mission, and kids really will buy into this. The sample letter that we've created that you could, when you're doing this, like your hook that you're doing to get your children involved and excited about the mission that they're going to go on. So again, that would be, you know, like a story that you could read, you know, with a secret message. I did a similar kind of activity a few years ago at a summer camp program and introduced this sort of theme to the kids in the morning. And at 10 after 9 in the morning, one of the campers jumped up and she said, she was so excited about what we were doing because she said, you know, up to the counselor, she said, "You lied to our parents, you lied to our parents. You said that we were coming here to do a camp." And I looked at my counselors and I hooked them for the week. So that was just sort of an example of using that kind of video and how you really can engage the students as well. And things that we encourage teachers to do throughout the unit is come up with roles for the students so that they can, you know, be given titles, given responsibilities, and learn a little bit of what it would take to be a project manager or a little bit about investigator. So in the document we've given you, and in the overview section, we've given you some samples of activities that you could use. And again, with younger students, giving them some kind of an identification badge is sort of a fun activity to do. And again, introducing the creativity and your connection to art as well. So this is a really simple application that's on the iPad where the children can take a picture and make their detective badge. And again, just sort of some samples of pictures of students involved in some of these activities and going out and being field scientists and connect. I think every child should have an opportunity, you know, to go and explore a creek and catch a frog and put it back in the water, making them actual field scientists and making them understand that they can do that. Within the grade 4 unit, this was another example of one of the other sort of storylines that you could use for the activity called "What is My Habitat?" So again, just using the same storyline. And then the sort of a lesson overview for that sort of particular hook, for that particular part. So again, so the students are looking at creating habitat and then using observations, you know, try and figure out what habitat is all about. So again, the connection to the curriculum is pretty clear. So again, what questions might they be asking about their habitat? You know, what kind of animals do you need? Where do they come from? You know, what is a habitat? So again, coming up with their own habitat activity. Another activity was called Create a Habitat Map, which is sort of an extension of your own habitat. So again, just sort of, discovery-based learning, exactly, right? So again, it is a fun way of doing activities with children, and my personal experience is that even the kids know that this is all, it doesn't matter because they're still enjoying it and buying right into this whole idea of being detectives as well. So in this particular lesson, one of the activities that they were doing was creating a map, for example. So again, the connection with the social studies curriculum with math and globe skills, for example, and then looking at, what makes a good map, for example, and then they can actually then generate a map. So again, a connection to your art curriculum as well. And then this was their last actual activity in this particular unit for the grade 4. So again, giving the children the, are you going to help? Yeah, we really need your help, right? And this activity right near the end. So again, looking at the human impact and what they can do themselves on having a smaller impact on the environment. And suggestions that this particular writer gave, a couple of culminating activities, and again, making the connection to an Aboriginal community, but again, also making a connection to the relationship you're going to play in the environment, or perhaps creating a video to show how they can make a change in the environment as well. So again, making it so that the students can be in control of their own learning. So this would be like sort of your concluding scenario story that you would give the students. So hopefully, you can get your principal involved in playing along with the scenario as well. That's sort of a little bit of a very brief overview of that grade 4 unit as well. So also in each one of the units, we've given you those lessons, how you can do it, different resources, assessment techniques in each one of the lessons. And then at the end of each one of the units, there are some other sort of sample activities where we've just given you some ideas of things that you might want to explore on your own as well. So again, making other curriculum topics as well. The other grade 4 unit, and I won't spend as long on each one of these, I'll just give you a bit of an overview. So the next one we picked was the Earth and Space Systems, and looked at when you're doing your rocks and minerals, how could you make that so that it involves the students getting outside and doing critical thinking activities as well. So again, some fairly straightforward activities with respect to the rocks and minerals unit, and again, our sort of storyline for this particular one. So again, the whole idea is sort of that problem-based learning, discovery learning, so making the children responsible for their activities as well. So this is one of the activities. It was a little bit different from sort of your typical rocks and minerals unit. So the idea of looking at how they can do reduce, reuse, and recycle with respect to rocks and minerals, and taking a look at objects in their everyday environment that are made out of those, and what can you do to reposition them into something else, have a second purpose in life. And again, in that particular unit, we've given you some other examples of activities that would go along with that. Field guides, a fossil day, for example. So lots of sort of supplementary activities in the resource as well. The grade 5 unit is the one conservation of energy and resources. The grade 5 unit has a really clear connection with the social studies as well, particularly with the new way the curriculum has been revised, with a big push on sort of getting children to role in their environment as well, and looking at how governments play a role in the energy. So this one is a little bit longer, this unit in grade 5. So just sort of some of the topics. So one of the things that the writer did in this particular one was introduce the idea of students creating an educational blog, for example. So that is one of the activities that activity number 3, that sort of would allow you to get the children to, be recording and actually, make observations and connecting with the real world as well. So, and again, the acting out energy allows you to do some grammar. So this was just like one of the examples of a scenario that we created a particular one. So again, making them sort of aware of roles that they can have now, and also, how they have an impact on the environment, because I think that's something that is really important for students. And so this is another scenario that allows the students to, integrate your math, integrate your social studies as well, by looking at how you're going to have to support a particular project that you have developed. This is a nice unit as well to do some debating skills, which children at this age are quite keen on. So again, they can come up with, they have to defend their particular company and then come up with the reasons, the pro and con arguments for a debate. So this would be an example of just sort of the overview of one of the lessons, government and environment and the energy that is used. So again, a direct connection to the social studies curriculum. And again, I just pulled out a few of the expectations because I know this I'm sure that people have not had a lot of opportunity to look at this new document yet. So these were some of the expectations in grade 5 that would fit really nicely with this particular unit. So again, looking at, the responsible citizenship is a big part of the new social studies curriculum. And again, the inquiry-based model, again, looking at it from a slightly different perspective as well, from the social studies inquiry and looking at environmental issues. So again, a really nice connection between the two subjects. And this is an example of a activity that we could do for this particular topic. So again, this could be, a project that you maybe do a few of the activities, or it could be something that you might spend a month on in your classroom. So again, it would be up to the teachers. Hopefully we've given teachers enough of an idea of resources, some of the different teaching strategies. So we've tried to, sort of encourage to use a wide variety of activities in their classroom. And again, a fair bit in all of the units talk about differentiated instruction and reporting methods and different forms of assessment. The grade 6 unit that we picked was another one which was a natural fit, was biodiversity. A good selection of activities that you can use here as well. And then a culminating activity, which would be have the students actually garden in their school, which is something that is becoming more common in a lot of schools in Ontario as well. So this was one scenario where you're going to get your students to be environmental crusaders, and they, again, involving the school, where they have to actually present a proposal to the principal and then take it to the school council, so that they actually have to get funds for this. And again, these are all things that could be done in reality as well. And, getting students at a grade 6 level to actually be involved in some kind of a project, I think, is really important for them. So one of the units was a miniature investigative nature, one of the units that, or one of the lessons at least. And again, it's an opportunity to get the students outside and actually find, like in their local community, a park or perhaps in their schoolyard and actually create a nature or taking an existing one and then looking at what kind of biodiversity is in the community. I did a similar activity with students in a summer program last year, and we did a very nice sort of guide for all of the trees and plants that were at the university, because the groundskeepers didn't know where all of the plants were. So that was sort of a fun activity as well. One of the activities in here as a culminating activity, again, so getting the students in the school to actually come up with a plan to create a garden in their school. And again, a nice connection with the curriculum. And at the end, they've got a vegetable garden that they could then market and use for the curriculum, for the food guide, and also for math, for example. And again, each one of the units has activities. So you're doing a sort of a more traditional mini quadrat activity. And one of the other is sort of an extension to that nature trail activity. We had done it in a summer program. We used iPads where the students went around and they made trail markers. And at each one of where they have their trail markers for their nature guide, they used the iPad to take a picture or take a video, and then also use the audio, so that it was like when you go to a museum and you pick up one of those devices where you can actually, find out what's at each one of the stations. So it was a great way to do a multimedia activity, to do some science, some globe skills, and then you invite the parents to come and, you give them the iPad and then send them off. So they actually have to go and investigate the trail as well. So a really, really simple geocaching or kind of activity. So again, map and globe skills, and allowing the students actually had to create this mini guide to make sure people were staying on the right path. Those are just some examples of some very simple iPad apps that could be used to do that, sort of extension part of the activity. And again, just sort of the pure fun of being outside and creating these nature trails for other people to follow. One of my favorite programs on the iPad for students is this program called Book Creator, because it allows you to make a real digital book. And again, the students can make as many pages as they want. They can put in video, they can put audio. And the nice thing about the program is that you can save it as a PDF file and send it to parents. So without having to, the experience of print a whole digital book, it's a really nice way of demonstrating the work that the students have done in school. And again, it is very cool. And if you've got iPads, then they actually can be created into the actual flip books as well. So a really nice application for integrating social studies, integrating science, integrating the sort of the language and the art. So that's a really cool application. If you've not seen that one, I highly recommend that one. Is there an Android version? Good question. I'm not sure. I'm sure there are very similar programs. This is just one that I stumbled across last and liked it, and I'm sure there's a lot of other programs as well. If you use a Mac computer, you can take this and do something like on the iBook, as well as another kind of program that you can use, or to make digital books. So again, all of that sort of idea of creating the literature connection, the language connection, we've really tried to infuse that into the curriculum, knowing how important literacy is as well. And I'm just going to sort of mention that throughout all of the resources, we've given many suggestions on how you can do assessment, but also how can you do assessment when you're teaching outside, because that is a little bit different than sort of assessment strategies or techniques that you might be more familiar with when you're inside the four walls of the classroom. So we've given you some ideas of how you can do assessment when you are doing outside education, and also different types of tools that you might be considering. And then we also have a resource section that has many websites. Now, obviously, you could go on for an extended period of time putting websites that are connected to the environment. So each one of the lessons has several internet websites that can be used, some samples of apps that could be used, for example, a few software programs that be suggested. So again, hopefully it gives you enough to get started on it. And the last link I'm going to share is this link where the resources can be found on the STAO website. Louise started by showing you where the resources can be found on the UTF website. So all of these resources are available for, don't go back. All of these resources are available for free. They're all done as Word documents, so you're go in, modify them, take the rubrics that we have, modify them, change them, use the the templates that we've created. So hopefully we've given you enough of an idea of a wide variety of activities that you can use. But the main goal for the thing is that even if teachers see this and, oh yeah, it's maybe not that difficult for me to do a couple of activities to get my students outside. And I think that was what our big goal was to show teachers that it isn't that hard and it isn't that fearsome. Just take the kids outside. Children like being outside, and I think that's an important part that sort of was a driving force behind the activities that we created. So I am going to stop there and leave some time if people have some specific questions or comments would like to raise. I would be happy to answer those. And I know I talked quickly just to try and get everything in the amount of time we had.
I don't know about the others, but I'm pretty impressed, Sheila. That was a really, really good in-depth tour that certainly is going to have us exploring more. Information. I wouldn't say information overload. It's like the happy buffet where you're like, oh, there's so much great stuff here. I can't wait to sink in, my teeth into it. I'm full right now, but I'm going to come back. Syria, I know that you're hovering there. I just want to mention to Janice and pop the link in. I had mentioned a session earlier with Peter and Brenda, Sheila, when you were talking about encouraging children to wonder and really explore through curiosity, and they had a session that was about making student thinking visible. Oh. And they shared a YouTube video with Annie Fetter that specifically discussed wondering, and she uses some good examples that are math and things like that, but it's a really interesting exploration of of not feeding kids information, but encouraging them to notice things and see things in a new way. So I think that applies very well for getting back to nature as well. So here's that link, Janice. I'll just hit that there and let Syria talk.
Thank you, Louise. And Sheila, thank you so much for sharing this very valuable resource and incorporating so many ideas on how to support student learning in, about, and for the environment. And of course, wonder about the environment and promote student engagement through environmental stewardship. As a science teacher, I've been retired. I've been out of the classroom since 2007, but as a science teacher, environmental education was always very, very important to me, and I incorporated it in no matter what course I was teaching. I taught secondary science, and I taught at St. Mary's High School in Hamilton, and I started a garden, a biblical garden, where I connected Catholicity in the curriculum. This is way before the graduate expectations came about. And the creation of that garden did amazing things for the students of that school, engaging them in nature and just giving them a purpose. So if any of you are interested in starting a garden, I'd be happy to help you and give you some ideas. And as Sheila mentioned before, it is a way to get the students outside and to really get them muddy and involved. Thank you so much, Sheila, for highlighting this resource that's free to teachers, and you can access it on the OTF website, you can access it on the STAO website, and please do use it. I'd like to thank each of you for giving of your time to participate in tonight's session and sharing your ideas. Do take a few minutes to, I guess eventually, there we go, thank you, Louise. Louise has put a link there in the center of the slide, the tiny URL, to give us your feedback on tonight's session. And we certainly appreciate your comments. And do tell your colleagues about it. They can access both the resource and the recorded session for tonight. And as Louise mentioned before, and Sheila shared just so many possibilities with us. So this is a great session that you can watch again at your leisure. So thank you all, and do join us for upcoming sessions. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night to you both as well. I just want to throw something else in there that a lot of stuff came up over the course of tonight's session about the revised social studies curriculum, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit perspectives, of course a lot of other things as well. You may want to make a regular habit out of visiting the OTF professional learning page. And there's the link for that one. There are a few new things that you'll discover on there. Our summer institutes will be opening for registration on Monday, and some of these very topics are offered during the summer as well. So please do explore there, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. Thanks, Chris and Janice.
I'd like to add one more thing, that there is another session coming up at the end of May where we will be highlighting the social studies curriculum. So again, this whole idea of inquiry-based and supporting both the new social studies curriculum and environmental education. So please check that one out, and that's with Marcy Becker. Good night.
Excellent. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.